every day is awesome, and every day they'd change it. And the latest now by the Backstreet Boys. Every day is awesome. And like I didn't catch on to like day 3 that it was purposeful because I kept being like, that's not Backstreet.
That's not a thing. Welcome to the Couch Time Podcast, where we give you tools to connect with your kids and point them to Jesus. I'm Josh.
I'm Steven.
I'm Aaron.
And we're going to talk today just about some helpful things for you as parents to either follow up on or just helpful maybe thoughts to think. So, Steven, what did you guys do at Independence?
How are you feeling?
I feel fantabulous. So last night at Independence, we had a testimony/prayer night as a group. So kind of to reflect on the past year that's ending, in the new year that's coming up, we kind of just took some time to share about what God's been doing and then what they're expecting or kind of needing God to do in the new year and coming into the Christmas season. So we had an open mic. We just told students, hey, come on up here, very simply, what has God done in your life in the past year? Where have you seen him show up? Is there anything that he's pulled you through or taken you through? Just talk about it. So it was actually super, super encouraging for me to hear kids come up and share and be honest. And I'm sure it was great for the students to not listen to me anymore, but to listen to their peers tell what God's been doing. So it was great.
Super cool.
That's super awesome.
It was heavy at times, like to listen to what some of your students have been through and has happened in their families or at school or at home, like death and sin and brokenness that's occurred, was kind of hard to hear at points. But then to listen to them talk about how God grew them through it and what he did in their life and how it was for good, like was quite humbling as their leader, to listen to them share. And then after that, we handed everyone a card and a pen, and we told them to write down. It's like, okay, so you guys have heard some really heavy stuff and you've heard God worked through it and what he's done. Some of you guys are still in the middle of some heavy stuff and you don't see how God's working in it yet. It just sucks. It's just heavy. It's just hard. It's just sinful. It's just broken. Write down what you feel. Put on the card what you're struggling with. Write down your anxieties. Write down your fears. Write down the lies that you tell yourself. And man, I filled a card up just for myself, things that I was going through. And we had a fire outside and I was like, okay. And 2 Peter says to cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. And I said, we have a fire outside. I want you to bundle it up once you're done, pray about it, reflect on this upcoming year. Then we're going to go cast in the fire and we're going to throw it in there, trusting God that he's going to have to pull through. And we're going to take him up on his promises that if we cast it on him, he cares for us. He loves us. He has our good in mind. And he can give us rest. So kids went outside, they threw it in the fire. We all stood around. I prayed for us as a group and it was a really encouraging night. So that is what we did last night in Independence.
Cool. I think just an idea, parents, that I just had off the cuff, like playing off of that, it would be interesting to see, like, I don't know how often you all talk as a family about these different things, but it'd be interesting for you guys to maybe set aside a night during, especially while maybe students are like off of school and things like that coming up, like maybe let them know ahead of time, like, hey, we're going to have a night where we just share about like how we've seen God work. And we're going to do that as a family. And you lead the night, like you start, and then, but it gives them time to kind of like maybe write down a couple thoughts or whatever. I don't know. That could be an interesting thing.
I'd say also, if your kid was in Independence last night, say, hey, I heard about the testimony night.
What'd you share?
Maybe they didn't share, but say, was there a story that stuck out to you?
Yeah.
And just ask
really
them
good.
to tell you back the stories.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then say like, what do you think about that? So I got in a car with a kid, drove him home that night, and just was like, dude, what did you think about the night? I was like, did he? And he was like, dude, I wanted to share. I was going to go up there. I'm like, like what were you going to say? And then he just unloaded like all this stuff going on in his life.
Great platform.
So if you just ask your kid like, hey, what happened last night? Were there any stories that stuck out to you? It could be encouraging for you, one, to hear like what other kids are going through, but then it gives your kid an opportunity to kind of share about some stuff.
And I would say also with testimonies in particular, growing up, my personal testimony, the word testimony, like my salvation story or whatever, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when somebody shares a testimony of
What God did.
You asked a question. It's like, what did God do this last year? It's like
Yep.
you're testifying to what
Yep.
did God do this last year.
Yep.
When somebody's like sharing a testimony about whatever it is, it's not like they're preaching a sermon and they've got
No.
3 main points. They're just sharing. And so the 3 main points or the one main point that all of the people hearing take away, like we never know the extent of what God uses a testimony for in all of the people that are hearing.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if you ask 10 different students about what they took away from one person's testimony, it's going to be potentially 10 different things.
Yeah.
And so it's like you never know
What it
what
sparks,
God is using somebody who's sharing to do the seeds that are being planted or watered in somebody's heart and mind.
Yeah.
And so it's an excellent thing to be like, well, what testimonies did you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's probably one that stuck out to them
Sure.
that they remember.
And who knows what they got from that
Yes.
testimony.
Yeah.
But it might be the fact that it was just the kid that wears the cool hoodie that shared, and
Right.
the fact that he thinks about God. It's like it had
Yeah.
nothing to do with what he said, but it had
Sure.
everything to do with the fact that he got up to share about what
Yeah.
God is doing. And it's
Right.
like, who knows what impacted your kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other piece I thought was interesting about what you just shared was that you made use of a car ride.
Oh, yeah.
To have that conversation. So it's like parents, like as you're driving your kids places, like car rides are so crucial. Like maybe just
Tell you what,
like
nighttime car rides.
nighttime car rides for
Dude,
sure.
Car ride. I mean, that was something that was kind of put into me in high school with Young Life and leaders that I had. But man, car rides is where ministry happened after Young Life or after youth group. It's sitting in the car talking about life. And I was parked in this kid's driveway for 10 minutes just talking and praying together. It's like God uses those moments when you don't have to look right at each other.
Right.
You're not staring at each other. It's not light.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
you're doing something,
What
you're driving.
atmosphere does.
It's
you can look forward and talk.
It's the common person's confessional. You know what I mean?
It really is.
And I think it's, I don't know. I think it's just, I mean, a lot of people travel and for holiday stuff, maybe you have family in the area and like on your way back, like just making use of car rides, I think is huge. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, on that note, it's not just car rides.
Sure.
Although that's a good one, but we've talked about it many times. I know you and I have just personally when we've reflected on like community groups that we've been in, and you and I have talked about it as we've sat outside and had fires many times when we've talked. It's like for your kids' parents, I would say that you need to understand that the goal, I would say, is to find contexts where your kids are going to be real.
Yes.
So
that's
for you
good.
last night, it's like driving in a car. It's like when they're at youth group, it's like they're in youth group mode.
Yeah.
And they're like, I got to, they're not going to have a conversation like that. As soon as you get in a car and it's like they're sitting back and they're comfortable, they feel safe. And it's like you could talk a little bit differently than you can if you're sitting in 2 chairs facing each other in the sanctuary at church. And it's like, so it's, whatever those comfortable contexts are for your kids and for you, it's like find them and capitalize on them.
Yeah.
And be intentional and not like lecture them, but just be like, hey, I heard there was Testimony Sunday. It's like, what was a cool testimony you heard? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah.
And it's like, just let them go. Don't
Yeah.
like try to get them to have. It's really hard and it takes time because I'm sure the student that you were with, it's like you've got a relationship that you've been building. It takes time.
Yeah.
And so it takes maybe 10 car rides before you get to one that was like, that was really great. Most of the car rides, kids are, picking their nose or doing, like, I don't know.
And this is also an interesting thing too. That was the only student in the car, right?
Yeah, it was one of my soccer
So
kids.
just that as a disclaimer too, like I'm thinking about like, if you have multiple kids and you're like on the way home and you're trying to maybe have a conversation with the kid who's riding shotgun, they may not open up because they don't want their siblings to know. So don't be discouraged if that happens. But like, especially if you're able to like have one-on-one time, like just for what it's worth, don't try to force everything.
Yeah.
But I love that phrase, comfortable context.
Yeah, maybe we
Like,
could talk
find that.
about that. How do you go about finding a comfortable context? What makes a comfortable context?
Waffle House.
But like what are the
People-
things that I would say? One, try things. That's number one. Just experiment and document. Like, what are the areas, what are the places that you've seen your kid maybe just breathe a little bit more?
So,
And we do make fun of you for Waffle House.
I know a lot of people do.
But for
so,
real.
So all kidding aside, I said Waffle House, but that's one of the places that is like a go-to for me because I like the idea of Waffle House. It's a blast from the past, but really what I love more than Waffle House, although it's my favorite breakfast food, I love frequenting the same Waffle Houses over and over and over because one of the things that builds comfort is expectations.
Yep.
And feeling like there's not going to be surprises. You kind of know who's going to be there. You have a regular seat that you sit at. So whether it's
normal.
Waffle House or it's Frisch's or it's McDonald's or it's like a car ride like after youth group, Steve, it's like there's some expectations. There's kind of an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
It's not like a new mystery surprise, although that may happen. But for me personally, finding those comfortable contexts, and the key is this for me, and it's the same with adults in my community group. It's the same on Sunday nights in community groups that I'm trying to do. If you can get people, think about it for yourself, the people that I am most willing to open up and divulge myself to, whether it's deep, dark sins that I'm struggling with or burdens that I'm carrying or it's whatever it is, it's like if I feel safe with them, it's like I'll talk. So what are the variables that make people feel safe?
That's good.
And so comfort really is just an avenue to making kids feel safe, in my opinion. And it's not like there's a template, but so like a car ride, the first time there's a couple students that I've discipled over the years, and if I look back at the first time I discipled them, the first time they rode in my car, they were probably like, this is really awkward.
Right.
But give it a few times, and it's like they're putting their feet up on my dashboard, and they're going through my glove compartment trying to find old gum or like, it's like just give it some time before they feel comfortable, and it's like, it just happens.
Yep.
So that's my 2 cents.
Happens when you're strategic about different things a lot of times.
So I'm being intentional about it, but you got to be strategic.
I would say kind of like what you were saying, Josh. Think through, when has my student been open with me?
Yeah.
And then go there and think about all the different elements that were around it.
Yeah.
Was it a light place? Was it a dark place? Were you playing a game? Were you not playing a game? Were you sitting and looking at each other? Were you not looking at each other? Was there music on? Was there not? And like, it sounds like super like psychological and like sciencey and like stuff, but in some ways it
Studying
is.
your student. It's like that's how I feel like that's where the best things. Like I think about my relationship with my wife or any friend I've ever had that it's really been good. I've actually tried. I've like thought about them, and like what are the ways I can like
crazy
specifically
what happens when
bless
you
them.
actually care about it.
I know, right. and to like more than just like, oh, I care, and that's it. It's studying them. Like when you study people and
It's hard, though.
you try, but like there's so much blessing that comes from it. I feel like my relationships with people have just like exponentially increased when I started studying them. So I think that's huge.
I think something else that I would add real quick that you just said. So comfort is one, and safety. But the other one that's like probably the biggest that you just said is you have to care about the people. So I'll just say my adult small group, community group. Sorry. In my adult
David
community
Michael.
group, if I don't care about the college kids, I don't care about their classes. I don't care about their semester. I don't care about their personal life, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their parents.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, how am I going to pray for them?
Sure.
Why would I pray for them? But then the other thing is, what are we going to talk about if I don't care about them? We're either going to talk about myself or we're going to talk about a bunch of fluff that doesn't mean anything. Like,
Right.
You have to care about them,
Yes.
but that's what makes a community. That's what makes people feel loved and a part. And it's the same with students. Like, it's the exact same. So it's being willing to talk about whatever they've got going on, and then slipping in there testimonies. What did you hear on Sunday night?
Yep.
Or like, well, how does that transfer on Sunday nights? Do you enjoy doing it's yeah. I think it creates the avenues to where you can get to the depths.
Yeah. And you're talking about empathy, right? You're trying to get into their shoes and to like actually not just care about them, but care about the things that they care about. And it's like, even like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I think it's so easy to either view your student, and I'm saying this because like sometimes I struggle with this with students, but like it can be so easy to just be like, I really care about how you're affecting me. Or, you know what, that's not important because, you know what, God is like this. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. One, God is like that. Like whatever the thing you said,
If it is your right thing.
Yes, right. It is probably true.
God is like this. He's
But they're speaking the truth in love.
Right.
And to be able to like not downplay the things that they're struggling with, like you're just in a different season of life, and to be able to just like get into their head and be like, yes, that makes sense why it's hard for you, or whatever, like that's huge. Man, I feel like we could just like keep talking about this. This is so good. But parents, just as an encouragement, like with all of these things, your kids are going to be home. They're going to be off for Christmas break. So how can you create comfortable context? How can you maybe use this time to study them and reflect on what you even already know about them?
Couple things I'm really, really excited about an announcement. We actually, if you're struggling to find Christmas gifts for your kids, we actually have a brand new swag store for the Grace
Is that the
students.
official title, swag store?
No, I'm going to
Okay.
call it Ace Freestyle Gear and Swag.
No.
No, we're not calling
Okay, boomer.
Pretend like you didn't say that. Parents, if you don't know what that means, go look it up. Okay, boomer. In all seriousness, there is a new Grace Student store that is opening up. That's got T-shirts, it's got sweatshirts, it's got hoodies, crew necks, long sleeves. There's youth sizes, there's adult sizes. If you want to support the ministry, you go buy something, or if you want to get something for your kid, or you can tell your kids to go get something. So there is a. Where can they find the store link, Steven?
The link is in the bio of this cast pod.
It's in the show notes.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, so that's it. So go check it out. We're super excited. Go look at the store and support Grace students. We love you guys. We exist to support you. So,
All right.
Steve, you want to
Aaron-
pray? We'll be done.
Oh, all right. Here we go. Dear God, thank you so much just for what you're doing in the lives of students, in the lives of parents, in our lives, even when we don't see it, even when we don't feel it, even when we can't even think you're going to do anything out of it. God, you are good. You work all things together for our good, even the pain, even the suffering. You have a plan for. So God, help parents in these upcoming weeks when they have a lot of more time with their students are at home, to find contexts where they can talk about you, where they can learn their kid, where they can love their kid by caring for them, and finding out what's going on in their life, what they're dealing with, what the Lord's doing in them, what they're struggling with. Lord, would you give kids hearts that are open to share?
Yes,
would you soften kids to talk with their parents? And would you give parents patience to work through the fluff, work through the hard things, to get to their heart and get to know what's really going on. So God, we are thankful for you, who knows everything that's going on and still loves us. You can see us in our filth, and you still came down to die for us and rise again from the dead to offer us a way to be made right with you. So God, you are good. It's in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen.